Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Keely.
And this is Cover to Cover, Portsmouth Public Library's Reader's Advisory Television. In each segment, we'll be discussing books in a specific theme or genre to help you find your next great read. And this week, in honor of spooky season, which I am very much enjoying.
Yes.
And we hope that you are enjoying our very many spooky programs going on this month.
So good, they're scary.
So this week we wanted to talk about, as readers, there's sometimes books that you connect with and you think about later and the way that it applies to your life, or maybe just the way that it horrified you or excited you, and basically it just reads that are haunting.
Yes. Yeah, as a reader, you'll have books in your lifetime that you think about long after the final page. So I will go ahead and start us off, and my first title is Hansfrau by Jill Alexander Essbaum. This book is centered around an American woman named Anna Benz, who's in her 30s, and she's married to a Swiss banker. They have 3 children together, and they're living in Zurich. Anna's life from the outside appears to be picture perfect, but she finds herself in a foreign country, so she's pretty isolated, and she's just deeply unsatisfied with how her life is going. So she begins to try out new experiences, such as taking classes, and she begins to have a series of extramarital affairs. This novel takes a really bold look at ourself and how we create ourselves, and how a series of decisions can make long-lasting impacts in our lives. This ending, I still think about it frequently. Just out of nowhere, I still think about it. So if you have read this title, which does include mature content, you may, if you're looking for something similar, want to try Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates or Tangerine by Christine Mangan.
That sounds like a very interesting read. I could see how that could kind of make you think about the way that you kind of create your own path that you're living, and the things that happen based on your decisions. Yeah, and honestly, the cover of this book still haunts me. I found this title, it stuck out to me on the shelf one day, so I still think about, the cover and the final ending so often. So often, it keeps me in line on my decisions. It is interesting how sometimes you can find your favorite reads are the ones that stick with you the most just by grabbing one at random. Yeah. That's always so fun. The art of the book. So speaking of beautiful covers, next we have Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. Ada and her father, touched by the power to heal illness, live on the edge of a village where they help sick locals or cures by cracking open their damaged bodies or temporarily burying them in reviving dangerous ground nearby. Wow. Yeah, that seems extreme, but hey, it sounds like it works. Ada, a being both more or less than human, is mostly uninterested in the cures until she meets a man named Samson. When they strike up an affair, to the displeasure of her father and Samson's widowed pregnant sister, Ada is torn between her old way of life and new possibilities with her lover, and eventually comes to a decision that will forever change Samson, the town, and the ground itself. Sounds like she has some tough choices to make as well. So if you've read this title before and you'd like something similar, try What Should Be Wild by Julia Fine or The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Yeah, I'm sure the question has to come up of if you could cure someone, would you? So that's an interesting concept as well. Yeah. My next title for this week is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. You've probably seen this one pop up either in social media or just book reviews. But the main character is Will, and his brother Sean has just been recently murdered. So Will knows what he has to do. He has to go exact revenge. So he gets on the elevator and he heads down to finish his mission. At each floor level, someone or something joins Will on the elevator and talks him through the decision that he's about to make. They hold a piece to the puzzle of his brother's unfortunate story. So once he figures out the whole puzzle, will he change his mind?
This story is so interesting to me, the way the author crafted it, because it takes place over 60 seconds, and it's told in verse. And it's a captivating look at teenage gun violence. So, in the amount of an elevator ride, this main character will encounter several people that could change his mind or not. If you have read this title and you're looking for something similar, you may want to try Tyler Johnson Was Here by Jay Coles or Will Fly Away by Brian Bliss.
That is one that has been on my list for a while, and I've been meaning to read it.
So
I
good.
remember when you first read it, you talked to me about it, and ever since then I've been wanting to read it. And then, of course, it's been on so many best books of the year
Yeah, a lot of
lists
awards.
Yeah.
So this one, I have good faith it will haunt you as well.
And next we have Room by Emma Donoghue. So narrator Jack and his mother, who was kidnapped 7 years earlier when she was a 19-year-old college student, celebrate his 5th birthday. They live in a tiny 11-foot square soundproofed cell in a converted shed in the kidnapper's yard. The sociopath, whom Jack has dubbed Old Nick, visits at night, grudgingly doling out food and supplies. But Ma, as Jack calls her, proves to be resilient and resourceful and attempts a nail-biting escape.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you could see there are a lot of aspects here that could haunt you later, make you think about things.
Certainly, yeah.
So if you've read this title before, it was very popular, still very popular, and it was actually made into a movie as well. But if you've read this before and you'd like something similar, try The March King's Daughter by Karen Dion or Rust and Stardust by Team Greenwood. And also, I will mention Emma Donoghue just released, if you've read this before and you love her writing, or if you read Wander and enjoyed that and you want to read her new book, I think it just recently came out, or maybe it's getting ready to come out. I know it's coming out this month, or maybe it came out late last month.
That one is a situation where the books are always better, but that might be a good spooky season film night if it's, adapted well, so I'll have to look into that. My final title for this week is One Second After by William Forstchen. So after a war takes place in America, a man is desperately trying to save his family in North Carolina as a second war wages on. And this war is based on electromagnetic pulse, which I did not know much about before this book. When the power grid goes down, you'll quickly see how much humanity relies on electronics and how quickly humanity will turn on one another to survive. So this is a fictional narrative, but it will haunt your mind for years to come with what could possibly happen if the nation's electric grid was ever compromised. Something you don't think about, but once it's in your mind, you're like, oh. So if you're like me, you'll probably find yourself attached to some of the characters. And you'll be thinking about them long after this book has ended. I actually picked this one up after we had an author visit. If you were here or know about Mindy McGinnis, she actually suggested this title, and I looked into it, and I'm glad I did. So if you really like this book, it's actually book 1 in a series, so you can continue on. But if you're looking for something in a similar vein, try Dies the Fire by S.M. Sterling.
I still remember when you read that because it haunts me, and I haven't even read it because you just told me just some kind of very general happenings, and now I'm horrified and worried about these things. So.
It definitely gets your mind pinging of like, oh, if this happens, not good, folks.
Am I? Yeah, not good. Am I prepared? Probably not.
Probably not.
And last but certainly not least, we have Native Son by Richard Wright. So this is actually a copy of his early works. If you've ever read anything by Richard Wright, I would say pretty much everything that I've read by him has stuck with me. So he's just an author of haunting reads. And so Native Son is a classic, but if you've never read it before, I read it in college, and I still think about it. And that was years ago. But I still think about it all the time. It's
lasting impact then.
Yes. So right from the start, Bigger Thomas has been headed for jail once. It could have been for assault or petty larceny. By chance, it was for murder and rape.
Oof.
Native Son tells the story of this young black man caught in a downward spiral after he kills a young white woman in a brief moment of panic. And it is, I will say, it can be kind of graphic, so be prepared for that. If that's not something that you enjoy reading, you may want to. I would still recommend taking a look at the work, but maybe
Skimming.
just be prepared, and skim, because there are some moments that are a little difficult to read. But it's also a very important work as well. It's set in Chicago in the 1930s, and this is such a powerful novel, and it's an unsparing reflection on the poverty and feelings of hopelessness experienced by people in inner cities across the country and of what it means to be Black in America. So if you've read this before and you'd like something similar, try An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, which is a little bit more modern, but I believe we've talked about that before, an
Beautiful
IGTV
book.
beautiful book. Or Sing and Buried Sing by Jessamine Ward. I don't know if we've talked about that one or not,
Sure.
but that is another one that's very beautiful and also pretty haunting, I would say.
Yeah, I have actually read both of the read-alikes, so just from going by that, I'm going to have to add that one to my list because I certainly think it's an important topic. So, once again, thank you so much for joining us for our Haunting Read segment. Let us know of any books that have haunted you. I actually really enjoy the books that leave me thinking long after they're done, so let us know what that book was for you. If you would like to hear a specific theme or genre coming up, let us know. We'll cover that. If you would like to place any of these titles on hold, feel free to call the library and have us do that for you. Or you can access the PAC online, the Public Access Catalog, and you can place yourself on hold yourself. Thanks for watching Cover to Cover. It's what's inside that counts.